there are two basic worldviews. They're at opposite ends of the pole. But the first worldview is a benevolent worldview. People with a benevolent worldview are those who have a positive mental attitude toward themselves and their life. They can make a contribution and do something substantial with their lives. People with a benevolent worldview are the movers and shakers and the builders of all of time. The other type of people are those who have a malevolent worldview. These are people who have a negative mental attitude, and they have, first of all, a negative mental attitude toward themselves. They have a tendency to be angry and to have low self-esteem. A malevolent worldview requires someone or something else to blame, someone or something to criticize, something to be down on. That's why you find that people with a malevolent worldview are always in opposition, or if you like, in conflict with people with a benevolent worldview. To remember, the most important people, the most productive people, the most creative people are always those who have a benevolent, positive, constructive worldview, and that's your goal.
The important key to effective living, then, is not trying to find the way to set things right and to straighten people out, not to set things right, but to see them rightly. The whole principle is based upon ourselves. It is not the world that we're concerned about, but our thought about the world. Thought for the average person is a reflex process. In other words, things happen and we react in thought. Life is a continuous reaction to outside stimuli to the average person. One may be happy or sad, or life has meaning or is meaningless by evidence of what happens to us from day to day. But experiences do not cause thoughts. Someone may do something to you, and he may give you a perfect opportunity to be upset if you want to be upset. But if you don't want to be upset, you needn't be upset, you see. What happens in your mind happens as a result of your attitudes and your feelings and your habit patterns. You think what you want to think, or you think what you have habitually thought by a certain tendency of habit patterns. Your thoughts are your reactions to the incident, always. The incident did not make the thought. It is your mind, and you have been thinking and reacting in thought according to the level of your consciousness. When was the last time you said, "He makes me so mad," or "That just teased me off"? And of course, this is not correct at all. No one ever makes you mad. You're angry because you have a anger consciousness that is touched like a little red button that causes it to blow up within yourself. Some of us are completely unaware of the fact that we have the power to control the kind of thoughts that run rampant in our minds. So the very first step in this process that we're calling the art of thinking is to know that no matter what happens in your world, no matter what is taking place around you or to you, you always have a choice. You don't have to be worried. You can choose to think positively or creatively if that's the way you want.
How many do better when you feel better? That means we're reactive to the physical culture. If you were proactive, you would carry your weather within you, regardless of the physical culture. And through exuding positive energy and smiling, you also release endorphins. What about the social culture? How many feel better when you're treated better? How many do better when you feel better? That's being reactive to the social weather, the social culture. What if you could learn to carry your social weather inside so that you can be consistent in extremely difficult, adverse situations, in handling major setbacks or disappointments? Between what happens to us, between that stimulus and our response is a space. In that space lies our power and our freedom to choose our response. In these choices lie our growth and our happiness. In other words, with the right choices, eventually the response we choose begins to influence the stimulus. This is what Viktor Frankl discovered. Freedom is a condition of the person, of the internals. We have control over our freedom. However, in many situations, not necessarily all, The more you control your freedom and expand and deepen it, eventually you will influence the liberty of your life. Eventually, your head will create your world. Your response to the stimulus will eventually influence the stimulus. Don't let the things you can do nothing about interfere with the things you can do a great deal about. Many people get hurt by someone. It does hurt them. But it's not what people do to us that hurts us in the most fundamental sense. It's our chosen response to what they do to us that hurts us. Between what happens to us, the stimulus, and our response to the stimulus lies our freedom. Think on it this way. 2 circles. The larger outer circle you call the circle of concern. Things you're concerned about. Things you're worried about. But then there is an inner circle. It's very small. That are concerns you have influence over. Proactive people focus their energies. Which circle? The inner circle. Reactive people focus their energies. The outer circle. Always work on the inner circle. It is a marvelous thing. If you work on the inner circle, it'll get larger. Always. The energy there is positive.
You can become the master instead of the slave. It's not easy to take possession of our mind. To change from being a reflex thinker to a creative thinker, it takes a lot of discipline and will and commitment because we've been thinking in the other way so long. But we can do so. This is the key to the positive life. This is the key to positive thinking.
Can you guess what's the most important quality to predict success and happiness in life? It's optimism. What they found was that successful people had really high levels of optimism. They were really optimistic. They were positive most of the time. Does that mean they didn't have problems? Oh, they had far more problems than the average person because they tried more things. They found that optimists had 2 great qualities which led to their success. Number 1 was they tried more things because they had an unrealistic expectation that they would be successful. They just kind of believed they would be successful. Yeah, they believed if they just kept on, they would be successful. So they just tried more things. Now the second quality they had is they persisted more. Because they have an unrealistic expectation that if they just persist more, they'll succeed. What optimists have is what I call orientations. And the first orientation that optimists have is future orientation. They think about where they're going most of the time. They think about the possibilities of the future and they idealize. And there's 4 areas where optimists idealize. Number 1 is great health. We want to have great health. We want to feel good about ourselves. We want to have high levels of energy. Number 2 is that optimists want to have loving relationships. They want to have happy relationships. They want to have happy families. They want to have happy friends. They want to have work with people they like, work for bosses they like. Well, the third thing that we all want is we all want to do meaningful work and we all want to do it well. It's so important for us to do our work well because this is what we found is how much you like yourself, your level of self-esteem determines your level of optimism. People with high self-esteem set big goals for themselves. And the starting point of of dreaming great dreams is to have a fantasy or an imaginary idea of your life as if it were perfect sometime in the future. If your life was perfect in 5 years, if your health was perfect and your family was perfect and your work was perfect and your financial situation was perfect in 5 years, what would it look like? What would it look like? Well, here's my favorite word in success. My favorite word in success is the word clarity. What I say is you can't hit a target that you can't see. So your job is to be absolutely clear. If you had the power to achieve anything, if you could wave a magic wand over your life and have 3 wishes, what 3 wishes would you want? Health, happiness, money, financial independence. If you could dream it, you can do it. If you can write it down, if you can imagine it and write it down, then the only question you ask is, you say, how do we do it? Now, who else has got what I want? And who else at one time didn't have it and now they have it? And what you do is you go and find out how they got there. You read their books, you ask them questions, you listen to their programs, and then you discipline yourself to do the same things they did until you get the same result. Number 4 is financial independence. Now, we all judge ourselves in life by how well we're doing on each of these 4. And we could be doing well in 3, but if we're low in 4, that's what bothers us. Well, now the second part, the second orientation that successful people have is goal orientation. Now, goal orientation means that they have very clear written goals that they work on every single day. Take a piece of paper like this, write the word goals at the top, and write down at least 10 goals you want to accomplish in the next 12 months. Now here's the important point. Writing down these goals takes 2 to 3 minutes. Actually about 3. If you write down 10 things that you want to accomplish in the next 12 months. Now all you have to do then is take this piece of paper, fold it up, put it away somewhere where you won't see it for a whole year. You'll be happy because not 8 of your 10 goals will have been accomplished in the most amazing ways. And you'll be sad because you wish you had written more goals and bigger goals. People come to me and they say, my whole life has changed in the last 30 days. All kinds of things have happened. They've changed jobs. They've changed relationships. They've gotten a new house. They bought a car. They've taken a trip. And they're all things they wrote down. If all you'll do from this day is you write down 10 goals, and then instead of putting them away for a year, just review them on a regular basis. Writing a goal down actually programs it into your subconscious mind. So even if your conscious mind doesn't even remember the list, your subconscious mind's got it. I've spoken all over the world and given this exercise. I've never had anybody say it didn't work. The only things they say are, it was incredible. The results on their lives were explosive. They could not believe it. Okay. Now, the third orientation is excellence orientation. In order to achieve something you have never achieved before, you have to be good at something you've never been good at before. You have to develop skills you've never had before. I learned that everybody in the top 10% started where? In the bottom 10%. Everybody who's at the top and doing well was once at the bottom and doing poorly. Everybody who's at the front of the buffet line of life was once at the back of a line. Everybody who's at the top of your field was once not in your field at all. And anything that anyone else has done, you can do as well. There's nothing that can stop you except who? Only you can stop you by stopping. And so therefore you find that people who have no advantages at all, but have one, is they just don't stop. They get to the top 10%. You can be in the top 10%. So this is what I learned, which changed my life when I was 24 years old, is that if you make a decision to get into the top 10% and you don't take it back, you will get there. There's nothing to stop you. The only reason people don't get into the top 10% is why? They don't decide to. And if they decide to, they don't get started. And if they get started, they quit. All right, so it's very important. But optimists say, hey, I can be in the top 10%. I can be, and they just never quit. People say, boy, you're sure lucky. No, you weren't. You make your own luck. You make your own luck by deciding where you're going and getting on the road. The only way we're going to get to the top 10% is by becoming very good at what we do. There's no shortcuts. We just have to get down and work at it. Just make a decision what it is, be absolutely clear, and then set your future, your ideal, set the goal to achieve the ideal, determine the skill that you'll need. Now here's the fourth orientation, and this is really important. It's called growth orientation. Growth orientation is the key to the future, and the key to your success as well. And I say that there's 3 things. Number 1 is read on a regular basis. Reading is to the mind as exercise is to the body. If you don't read, it's like if you don't exercise your muscles, what happens to them? So the rule is read 30 to 60 minutes a day, 5 days a week. If you do that, you'll read about a book a week. That'll translate into about 50 books a year. 50 books a year will make you one of the smartest and highest paid people in your field. You'll go past everybody else in the business. So, read on a regular basis. Now, the second is to attend all the seminars that you can. Always trade money for time or life. And if it costs you a little bit to go to a seminar, pay the money because you'll get it back 10, 20, 50, 100 times. They're saying, I don't think that this is a good person to invest in. This company has no future. This person has no future. The interesting thing is that the more you invest in yourself, the more you believe in yourself, the more you like yourself, the more determined you become, the more confident you become, the better you get.